Okay.
Yes. Yes, we. I just want to welcome everybody. We just opened our lines. We've got our first group of attendees here. We just like to wait a couple minutes and allow a few others to log in. We have had a lot of questions about whether or not this is being recorded, which tells me there's a lot of interest in the topic. And I look forward to hearing from Laura today. If you can just give us a couple more minutes to let a few more people get in, and then we'll get our show on the road. Well, it looks like everybody was so excited about hearing this topic today that they were all here, promptly on time. If we get a few more people showing up, we'll be glad to let them in the door. And we are in the process of recording this as well. So if there's spouses or friends who wanted to be here but couldn't make it, we'll be glad to share that link and be able to pass along this information. I want to welcome you. My name is David Farrell. Part of Precept Wealth Management. Appreciate you coming here to join us for our Tuesday talk. Our goal is to provide worthwhile, actionable information to our clients and their friends, associates, so that we're all growing and learning as we go through this process. Today we have I'd like to welcome our special agent Laura Brunstetter to this edition of Tuesday Talks. She's been an agent with the FBI for nearly 18 years, spending most of her career investigating fraud and other white-collar crimes. She's a certified public accountant and has been assigned to the Texas City Resident Agency for the past 5 years. So I'd like to turn it over to you, Laura.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to try to see if I can get all this to flow as the host here. So bear with me 1 minute. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and make it. All right, so I do a lot of fraud presentations. Generally, I like to get out, and it's been difficult with COVID, of course, but I do like 45 to an hour long presentations because there's just so much to talk about with fraud. So I apologize if I run a little long. I'll try not to, so that you guys have time for questions. And in the end, I have my contact information, because I'm just going to touch on some things, but I also just want to let you know the other types of frauds that are out there. But some of this data I'm getting from, or I have in here, you can go to ic3.gov. It's the letters IC and then the number 3.gov. And that's where we're getting this data. And it's also a repository by the FBI for victims to report fraud that has happened to them. And I highly encourage that because it's a way for us to like amass the different types of fraud schemes that are out there and what's the trends, and also to be able to, for us, like investigators, to find common victims of a fraud scheme so that we can get a higher loss or a higher number of victims for an organization or a subject, and then put them away for longer sentences. So it's a good repository for all those reasons. And that's where some of this data is coming from today, which I was asked to talk about the phishing schemes and kind of like why you guys get those emails or text messages with links to click on and all that. And as you can see, last year, that was the #1 type of crime by the number of victims. It's just so prevalent, and it's the #1 crime because it's like a shotgun method. These criminals just, they pepper your email with these links and these emails, just hoping to get just a handful of people to click on them. So there's all these other different types of fraud, but phishing, as you can see, the formal definition on the right side there, it's just the use of the email and the text messages to trick you to think that it's a legitimate company, and then you provide some kind of information, whether it's financial or personal, to then allow them to take advantage of you. So I think everybody knows what phishing is, but that's the technical definition. And then this is the top fraud schemes by loss, and you can see that phishing is way over on the right there. It's not near the top, and the reason that that's the case is because the average phishing loss amount is like $136 per person. So even though it's such a prevalent scheme, the average victim doesn't lose that much money. The top fraud loss is this acronym here called BEC or EAC, and really that is business email compromise. You may have heard that it's happened in the media locally with Galveston County. What this is it's like when a company or a government organization is targeted, their email is usually compromised. And with the case of Galveston County, one of their vendors' accounts was compromised. And so someone was able to access the vendor's email and send Galveston like an email saying, hey, pay us for our services at this account number instead of the traditional method. And so Galveston, believing that, it was their true vendor email, sent the wire transfer off, and then they lost, I think it was a half, I don't want to specify on the loss, I can't remember, but that was one of our cases. So that's hugely prevalent because it's such a high dollar loss per hit. Some of the other things that are highlighted here, investment fraud, that number is quite large, but importantly, over to the right, you see that grew 332% in 1 year. I only can speculate why, but I think a lot of it might be because, a lot of people were working from home or just down with the COVID, the economy and everything. And so maybe people were looking for a way to make a quick dollar, or that there was more criminals targeting victims during this time period. But that has grown tremendously in 1 year. Romance fraud is kind of what I work a lot of cases about, because I just see so many victims fall prey to these predators that they're meeting on online dating websites or just regular social media. And so that is a high dollar loss because it's a relationship of trust, and someone doesn't expect to be taken by someone that you believe you're in a relationship with. So that's huge. And then tech support, I'll touch on in the end today. That is, I think everybody knows what tech support is. It's when you get those pop-up things on your screen that say, you have a virus. Click here and fix that, or call us at this number, and then you end up getting further victimized. So that's a huge problem. Well, I started the second largest one for the last year, the increase of 137%. So, but today we want to talk about phishing indicators that you're gonna, I know you've seen your emails. I was just looking in my junk email today to see, what is the common thing right now. And I saw an email after email, day after day, from people, different names, saying, hey, your mortgage payment has been adjusted. And so it makes you look like it's legitimate, like my mortgage payment may have been adjusted. So, oh my goodness, I need to click on this. But luckily my email filtered them out to my junk. But that's something that you're going to see. It's going to come from what looks to be a trusted organization, somebody you're dealing with already, your employer, even potentially, your bank, a social networking site, just various companies or entities that the criminals can spoof and make it look that way. You may often get like a bank that you don't actually bank with, but they're just doing, again, that shotgun approach to try to see, maybe you do bank with Chase and you'll click on this and provide your correct login information. So those are the first part of it. It's going to be a legitimate appearing email. And then the second component is this urgency. They're going to put something there like, they're going to make you believe that someone either tried to log into your account from this IP address in China, or someone has changed your credentials on one of your accounts, or your social security benefits are going to be shut off if you don't call right away or you don't click on this link. So there's something that's going to like get your emotions riled up and try to get you to react. So that's like a huge component of these schemes. So there at the bottom, there's just some examples. It could also be that it's something that's too good to be true, like you are qualified for a government grant. You may receive up to $20,000. All you have to do is provide this information, So those kind of things, it's either usually one or the other that they're trying to get you to react quickly. Okay, so what you can look for, I see this time and time again, and you may just miss it because if it's something that's getting your emotions up, you're going to react quickly. You can just slow down and go back and look at it. Was there misspellings of simple, words and phrases, or bad grammar? Generally, they use like a lack of specificity, so they're not going to give you a specific person's name and phone number. They're going to copy, just maybe sometimes poorly, a real bank's email look, but you'll see that there's things that are off. One being like the email domain. I deal with victims that sometimes they say, oh, well, the FBI was trying to help me get my money back. And this agent I was dealing with, he emailed me this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, what was his email address? And it's like agentsmith@gmail.com. So that's the first thing, it's like government officials would not be using a Gmail account. They're going to have a government email. So as silly as that sounds, it's like, look for the email address, because you're going to see that these criminals, they may not necessarily have the computer intrusion ability. It may just be that they're spoofing an email to look like a legitimate one. And that happens quite a bit. And then of course, beware of any emails that have attachments. Like, unless you were expecting something from your bank or something that, you had asked for, don't open that attachment. Most likely it's not going to be something good or legitimate. It could contain the viruses. And so what I was referring to with the emails, this is how they do it with the spoofing, because your brain just fills it in. So here's a legitimate email for Juan at Ohio Title, because we see that a lot of those BEC frauds, the large dollar hits that they do, are with real estate transactions. And as an individual and not a business, your largest dollar transaction you're going to have is probably selling your home. So you want to make sure that the money goes to the correct title company and not to the bad guy. So look at those specific instructions. They shouldn't be changing the wire instructions on the day of a sale. But that's for another day, all these instructions I have. But look at the emails below, and you can see how they change the O to a 0 or the L to a 1, or at the very bottom is like the Gmail one example. So those are things to look for. Pretty simple. And this is how you can see it's so effective. Can you guys read that? It doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word appear. The only important thing is that the first and the last letter are in the right place, and you can still read it. Your mind is reading this automatically without even thinking about it. Okay, and so why do they do this? I think we said it's the shotgun approach, but there's very little risk. So this example is about the BEC fraud and not necessarily phishing. With the phishing attacks, it said the average loss was like $130. But the BEC loss, if you look at this here, the average convenience store robbery, $709. Average bank robbery loss is $3,800. The average BEC loss is $120,000, which for some criminals, that's, I mean, probably in other countries, that's more than their annual salary. They get that in one shot. So there's very low risk and there's a very high reward. So that's, unfortunately, that's why they do it, because if you're sitting in on a computer in another country, you know, what is the chance that you're going to get arrested for this? Probably very slim. So how can you avoid being victimized? So as we said before, look at that email address to see where the email is coming from. Make sure it's correct. If you do receive a phishing email, or you suspect it is, don't respond to it. You know, if it's got the urgency, just, you can delete it. You can verify it in another manner. Don't click on that hyperlink. You can, if there's links in it and you think it's something you need to respond to, you can hover over the link and it should show you like a pop-up of where that link is going to take you for real. Because sometimes it may say it's going to Bank of America /account sign on, but when you hover over it, it's really taking you to 123@me.com or something, you know. So just check that the website is actually correct where it's going to take you. Oops, went too soon. Also, a lot of times they will put a phone number, you know, you have been victimized, call us right away to protect your Social Security benefits. Never call the phone number in the email, because that's just like clicking on the link. You are not going to get your bank, you're going to get the bad guys. They're going to then say, I'm your bank, and give us your information. So it's just as important to look up the phone number as it is to look up the email and those kind of things. Excuse me. And never provide your personal or financial information in that email or over that phone call. Okay. As I think I alluded to before, is to make sure your antivirus software is up to date. That's important, because if you do happen to click on something that had a virus, that scan should find it and remove it. If you are on LinkedIn, it's just one of the ways this next tidbit here is just to try to reduce your spam mail, because you know your email address is everywhere. So unfortunately, as much as we want to try to eliminate getting all that junk mail, we just can't. Our email is asked from, you know, everywhere you go, you need to give them an email address. So one of those suggestions is just to avoid putting that personal email on your LinkedIn, because it then would give a criminal an idea of where you work, and they would be able to spoof something with your company and try to access your information and look legitimate that way. Another suggestion, and it's kind of difficult, but if you are able to, you could use 2 separate email accounts to try to keep one for, you know, professional things, and if you're signing up for random stuff, you know, you're shopping on the internet, you could use your other email. Just like the emails, the text messages, you see sometimes they'll have hyperlinks in those, and it's just, you should treat it the same way and not click on that unless you're expecting that from like your doctor's office reminding you of something or whatnot. The secure URLs that have HTTPS at the end, you should still be verifying those unless it's, you know, one that you go to regularly, such as your regular bank website. It's just basically, if you're doing e-commerce over the internet, just know who you're dealing with. And okay, so say you did click on that link and you suspect that you may have downloaded a virus. So you're going to have that software already on your computer, right? Your antivirus software. You're going to run a virus scan and see if you can find anything and correct that. If it's something that has done some damage to your computer, you know, your computer's acting haywire, or you just weren't able to correct it with your virus software, or you think you're just worried, you can take it to a trusted computer repair place to help with that. But if you do think there was some damage done, say you, for instance, like provided some identifiers or gave money, you know, like fell host to sending out money, you would need to then report this to your credit bureau. You can do a hard freeze with the 3 credit bureaus so that nobody can open up credit in your name without having, you know, your specific password you set up for that. And of course, if you did fall victim and send money, report it to the local police department and at that ic3.gov website I mentioned before. With that, if you guys do report something to us, please put as much information as possible. Like if it was a wire transfer that you sent money to, provide us all the wire details so that we can then, like I said, aggregate who those criminals are. So if you're a victim and you sent money to Joe Smith at whatever bank and wire and instructions, I can find another victim that did the same thing and kind of match up all the victims together. There we go. So tech support fraud that we talked about earlier, that's when a pop-up thing comes on your computer and it says, you know, you've got a virus, you need to pay to get this removed. And you may click on that pop-up or you may call the number on it, and then it's a scammer at the other end. And that scammer asks you to have control of your computer. And it looks like they're fixing things and cleaning it up, but they're really behind the scenes accessing your saved passwords or your bank account numbers and things like that. So we had a local case here that the scammers were doing this exact thing. They were accessing the elderly computers, and they were getting behind the scenes, making it look on the surface that they were cleaning up things and fixing things. And in the background, they were getting into their bank accounts and sometimes credit cards, and they were transferring funds from like savings accounts to the victim's checking account, or doing a cash withdrawal on or cash advance on a credit card to a checking account. And so then what they said was, hey, you know, we're going to refund you your tech support monitoring fee, which is like $300. But they would accidentally or claim that they had accidentally refunded, you know, $30,000 instead of the 300. And so by doing that, they were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired for this, you know, just really trying to like make the victim feel like they had to hurry up and go to their bank and pull out the 30,000 that would mistakenly gone to them, and then send it back to the bad guys. But in reality, the victims didn't know it was their own money that the subjects had moved between accounts to make it look like it was the subject's money. It's kind of like a complicated way to describe it, but these were what we found. We did a search warrant, and they were having the victims send cash in magazines and books and send it to UPS stores and FedEx offices all across Houston. And so they were sending it into fake names, and these are some of the fake IDs we found, and these were the passport photos used to create the IDs. And on this left side here is a UPS, the list of all the UPS stores, and on the back side of it was all the FedEx office locations. And they were just directing these runners, we call them mules, these guys all over to Houston to pick up these packages of cash. And then when they would do that, they would send it, you know, in cryptocurrency or just wire it over to India. So this is one of the subjects and his fake ID, and they used a software to even add like different hairstyles to these pictures. So it was just very detailed. So tech support fraud, this was one of the things that increased 137% over the prior year. It's primarily targeting the elderly, you know, folks over 60 years of age. We had losses of nearly $348 million that was reported. And so again, it's kind of like with the phishing schemes. If you're victimized, shut down your device immediately, take it to a computer place to have it scanned, and do not contact the fraudulent company again, and then go through the identity theft process of protecting your, going to the credit bureaus and freezing your credit and reporting it to the police. I have a general fraud takeaways here because I normally talk about all these kinds of frauds. I just want to give the 10,000 foot view with regard to like romance fraud, since I deal with that so much. The number one thing I interview people, they say they never met the person. You know, they met them on some website, and then this person is overseas working. So just if you're in an online relationship and you've never met the person, don't send them money. Just don't give them your driver's license or any information personally like that. If they have some kind of horrible crisis and they need money, that's a red flag. Okay. If they're in the military overseas, they don't need money to get home. They're not on an oil rig, all of this stuff. Social media, oftentimes this is how they find their victims. If you're recently divorced or if you're recently widowed, do not put that on your social media. That's like a huge thing to go for. And don't accept friend requests from people you don't know. It seems obvious, but people are lonely. And so again, with the real estate transactions, that goes to the BEC fraud, but verify, like if you're selling your home and on the last minute, you already had prearranged directions on where to send your money and your closing. If it gets changed at the last minute, call your title, call the title company, call your real estate agent, verify personally, because that rarely would occur. So most likely it's a fraud attempt. You don't want to lose all your life savings. Extortion attempts, sadly, the FBI is impersonated all the time. Social Security is impersonated a lot. The IRS, they're not going to, the government's not going to call you and threaten you. We're not going to ask you to go buy gift cards to pay some kind of debt. We're not going to threaten to arrest you if you don't pay a fine. Okay, we don't do that. So just hang up. Just do not fall victim to those calls. Tech support, just ignore those pop-ups, and you probably need to get a good antivirus product installed. And the lotteries, I work a couple lottery schemes right now as well with the sweepstakes. And most of the time, these people never put in for any kind of sweepstakes, yet they're somehow, they've won $20 million, but they just have to pay all these things in advance. So if it seems too good to be true, it is. And that is all I have. Oop, I will put that back, but I want to give back control to you guys for questions or.
Well, hey, Laura, this is Kyle Sadler. And, this is why I found this important for me, because I've had several clients that have fallen victim to the various scams. And a couple of them were the timeshare, where they're going to sell your timeshare for you, but you end up paying more and more money for those timeshares. The other one is the IRS calling and wanting gift cards. But so the question that I have that overrides, and I mean, this is pretty obvious, but sometimes we have to think about it, is does the FBI, IRS, government agencies contact anybody via email, telephone for payment, text message?
No, I mean, I can't, I've emailed people, but it's when I want to talk to a witness, that they're a victim. I've emailed people when I need them to call me back, but I generally give them some information so I know what it's about. I'm certainly not, going to say it's about, I need to arrest you if you don't pay a fine. I call people to interview them as well, because most of our cases are, international. So I need to interview people all across the United States. And just because I can't send an agent, everywhere, we do that. Most of the cases, it would be ideal to have an in-person interview. But just now, how the nature of things have gone, typically now I don't work a case with victims in Houston. Most likely my subjects are in Houston and my victims are all across the United States. So I do have to make those calls. But you can definitely vet who I am. And what I say is, if you don't know, you don't trust me, hang up, Google the FBI in Houston, call the main number and ask to be transferred to me. And then you can call back and talk to me personally, that it's legitimate. Same thing with email. You're going to see my FBI.gov email. I'm never going to ask you to provide, your social security number or your identifiers. I will have that information and I may verify it with you. But yeah, there's never going to be anything threatening like that. If you owe the IRS money and you do, you might get some kind of letter in the mail regarding that, but they're not going to call you up and threaten to arrest you if you don't pay, with gift cards or a wire transfer or something, or cryptocurrency.
So the other part, because I don't want to dominate this, I want everybody else to ask questions. Prince of Nigeria. Whenever I was trying to get people out there, Prince of Nigeria has been going on since the 18th century, but here's the part that a lot of people will fall for, and just kind of want to hear your take on it. Is whenever they sit here and they respond, I know this is fake. I know this is a scam. All right. So the reason why you're saying don't even respond to them, is there a little bit deeper of why you don't want to respond to I know this is a scam?
Well, okay. So there's a couple things. Number one, I guess it would legitimize that that's a real person at that email account. I don't know how they got that, how they got their contact information. It may be through Facebook Messenger, right? Because a lot of times people try that route to see if someone will respond. But if you have already been victimized once, your information is probably on some, dark web chat room, like, hey, this person, gave me X amount of money. They sell that information, or the organizations share it. You may be victimized in a romance fraud by, say Sam Sheldon, and then that person now changes his name to, Bob Benson, and he's really the same guy, but now he knows all about you and he knows what buttons to push, but he's a new guy. So they just, they won't let it go if they know they have a target with money. So.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just mention, I was in the banking world for a long time, and we saw so many of those romance scams, or the, oh, my girlfriend's dad is inheriting money and they're some prince, whatever. And it's amazing to me how many people do fall for that, because like you said, they're lonely, they're normally older people, they're no longer married, their spouse has passed away, their kids are grown, and they're just looking for, some type of a relationship, and it happens a lot. So, I know a lot of people go, how in the world can anyone fall for that? But they do a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another sad thing I find, that there's a lot of, nurses. They seem to target nurses, and I feel like that because I've interviewed a lot of victims who ended up being nurses, and I wonder if it's not something they're trolling, Facebook or Instagram, looking for, to say, oh, well, those people are caring, and they're gonna give money if I need something because they're a nurse. I don't know, but it's just my own thought. But yeah, most people are just looking for even companionship, and sometimes when they know they've been victimized, they don't break it off right away, because it's a real person to them. So
yeah.
Laura, I appreciate you sharing this today, especially when the numbers, you see how prevalent this type of scamming is out there, which helps bring it home that, hey, I need to watch out, because we can all get lazy, and your call today really seems to be on alert. I have a question. When we've all got spam filters on our email, is it best just to delete all those things, or do you try to unsubscribe to certain lists and then identify yourself as an active email that way?
Mostly I don't unsubscribe, because again, I'm kind of leery of what's in that unsubscribe link, right? Maybe I'll unsubscribe if it's like I seem to get a lot of certain online stores that I don't even know how they got my information, but it's a regular company emailing you every day, some kind of advertisement, and I'll unsubscribe to those things. But generally I don't, just because I am just super cautious of those links. If you have a way to just send them to your junk, at least my email seems to filter them out pretty well, and as well as legitimate emails, but so.
Sure. Well, I also wanted to give open the floor for anyone else who's out there that's got questions. We appreciate Laura's time. It's very valuable to get out here and share her expertise. Are there any other questions we have?
I have a question or a comment, if I may. excuse the camera. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. First of all, I am 64, but you reminded me that I am elderly, and that's okay. That's okay. That's fair, because I'm starting to think like an elderly person, and more and more conservative in my finances. And Lindsay probably knows that. I've been the victim of all kinds of scams. The most recent one is a good old-fashioned personal check was altered.
Mm.
And so, we thought that was a safe way to do things, but it is not. And then fortunately, it was caught. I'm going to give just a comment more than a question. As I am getting more elderly, and even though I am risk averse, I'm finding two things. First, I can't think faster than the criminals. I'm not a criminal. I don't know what else they can do. They surprised me with this altering of a check and being able to take a picture of it. So, I took care of that. The other problem I'm having, and maybe Lindsay can appreciate this, is even when I do call an annuity company, retirement account company, I have to provide a tremendous amount of information. And so it's hard to get a personal relationship with your money once you write the check and it gets deposited. So I'm finding that I feel more insecure, even though I'm being asked a lot of questions, because I don't have a personal relationship with these people. And so, you say, well, if you get an email from a company, don't click on it. I get that. I understand that, but it's hard for me to get the money out of my accounts. Mm-hmm. And so I never know. I got a call once and I called back the Amazon company, and the Amazon person started to ask me questions. And I said, how do I even know you're Amazon? I know that this is the number, but how do I know that the number didn't get routed to another Amazon? So what I'm saying is this: as I get older, and I make no, I'm not being facetious. As I get older, not only am I risk averse to my finances, I'm starting to wonder whether or not I should invest in things that I used to invest in, because it's just so risky now. There are so many ways criminals can get to the money. I just don't have the time or the expertise to try and protect myself. And I just wonder if it's just a matter of time before I do lose, even though I'm trying to protect myself. And so I'm saying that more to Lindsay and financial people. If I think I'm an average person, not ordinary, but average. And I wonder if there are more and more people like me who I talk to of my age who are starting to say, I just think I'm going to buy a safe and buy gold and put the money in a safe, because while the FBI can take my information down, like, for example, my in-laws were scammed out of money because they got a call that their grandson was in jail, and they had to send money. They had a lot of information about him. It wasn't their grandson. They fooled them. They can't get the money back. It's not enough time for the authorities and so forth. So I'm just saying, I'm worried about people scamming me. I'm concerned and I'm also concerned because as I send money to these other companies, I feel less and less secure that I can get it out. It's more difficult to get it out. I feel uncomfortable investing. I didn't used to feel like that. And maybe that's a product of what happens as you get older, or maybe it's just a product of the times that we live in. But for what it's worth, as an average person, my wife and I struggle with what to do with our money because we're really worried about it. Not the times we live in, notwithstanding, in terms of politics and the economy and all that. It's an uncomfortable position to be in all around. And as I said, it's a comment, I don't have an answer. I don't know. We don't know what to do. Every time I turn around, I've got something else going wrong. And fortunately, I have the time. I have the time to spend all day on the phone with the bank trying to resolve this. I don't know what, like someone like yourself who's working all day, what would you do? But this is the situation I find myself in. Perhaps other people that Lindsay, deals with find themselves in. We've reached the point in our lives where we've got investments all over the place. We're worried about them being scammed, but then also we're less secure in the fact that we have trouble getting the money out. Okay, end of comment. Thank you for listening.
Lindsay, did you want to comment on that one or anyone?
Well, I mean, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I want to, the first part that was when you said about being elderly. No, I have to laugh because I just recently got an indictment for an individual who is, there's new penalties for targeting the elderly, thankfully, because this is a real problem. But as the law defines elderly, you guys are going to laugh. The law defines elderly as someone 55 and older, so it's even younger. So I say that because my husband and I are not too far from that. But in any event, there's great penalties for these folks, and so that's a good thing, and that's why I think they are conservative and making it that number. Because yeah, at what age do you start to lose control of your decisions or just get overwhelmed, right? Like nowadays, like you're saying, you have all these accounts all over the place and different passwords, and maybe accessing them is not done in person anymore. So I don't, as far as personally, I'm in the stage where we're just putting money in, not really accessing it or pulling it out. But it is concerning, especially in the environment. And I talk to my parents and my in-laws and things. They have all different perspectives on buying silver or those kind of things. That's not my forte. But just, I think it sounds like you're doing a great job at being responsible and trying to safeguard it. The people I end up talking to that are victims, it sounds like they always have the hindsight, like where, oh my goodness, I should have known better. I should have, but like you're proactively thinking about it. Like you're worried and maybe a little too worried, but you sound like you're going to be the last person to fall victim to one of these things. Sure, it happens though, because I mean, just like with the phishing scams, my work, they're constantly sending us these emails that look that are phishing tests to try to keep us aware so that we don't make the FBI vulnerable to attack. And so just the other day, I got an email and it looked like it was maybe from a grand jury subpoena response. It came from an attorney, and it had a link to click on. And I was like, I don't know about this because they didn't say anything specific. So I caught it. I didn't click on it, but it's like they're keeping us up to date by doing these little tests. So just keeping your brain fresh, like you're attending this conference or this training session today. That's huge, because a lot of people that fall victim to these schemes, they're just they're just uneducated and unaware of these, and so it's good to stay up on the latest trends. I do like to get out and do these presentations at all different things like the library and the YMCA meetings and various different organizations. So I'm not sure if I've addressed everything there, but I know that there was a lot of concern, and it sounds like you're doing a good job. So, I mean, other than, what to say about accessing the money these days, I guess you guys can talk about that.
Yeah. And I'll just add on that, I think in the investment world, I feel like one of maybe the big, issues that I've seen that clients fall victim to is, an advisor that maybe you didn't really have a relationship with, or somebody that you just said, oh, I'm going to just go give this person 50,000 because they've got this XYZ investment that just sounds really great. That I feel like is maybe the bigger issue that I've seen in the investment world. And it might be a reputable, well, not reputable, it might be an actual advisor who's licensed and everything, but they scam people and don't tell, all accurate information or anything. So I think the biggest thing in the investment, world is just to know the person that you're working with. We have a relationship, and, I think, we've built trust over the years. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just make sure that you do have a relationship with the person that you are investing with, and that person is, being honest and forefront with you about the different types of investments that y'all are doing. So for me, I think that's kind of the biggest issue I see in the investment world. So.
Yeah. And then also with you guys, I think like wealth management companies and the banks, they have a scale of, like, some are really great at protecting clients. Like if they have a client come in and they ask to withdraw, all their money, or they come in every week or every day and getting at like a unusually large withdrawals, keeping an eye out for that, to try to check in on your customers and ask them some questions to see, if something's going on, that they might be susceptible to fraud. Because I always hear the victims after the fact say, well, my bank never told me. And, it's not your job, but it is important to try to help out folks. Everybody's a target these days. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I just want to echo what Lindsay had to share and say one of the greatest fraud prevention tools is having a good relationship with your advisor, because I know I got an email a while back from somebody instigating withdrawal, and I wasn't expecting that. So, I'm on the phone because we need to take trade instructions verbally. We can't just do things electronically. But also, if people start acting out of normal, I know we try to, it piques our interest, want to make sure that, we're doing what's best for our clients. And, also trying to guard everyone's time as well. I appreciate everybody who's stuck with this. We try to keep our Tuesday talks at around 30 minutes, something that can fit into their lunch hour. And I appreciate you guys hanging on. We're 47 minutes in right now. I just want to say an extra thanks once again to Special Agent Brunstetter. We appreciate all the ways she's encouraged us to stay safe in this world. I just want to let everybody know that we do have Tuesday talks coming out again next month. We're going to let the anticipation build a little bit longer before we release our key speaker. If there are topics that are of interest, please let us know. If you've got feedback from today's event, please drop us an email, let us know. We are here to serve you. And unless there are any other comments, just want to thank Special Agent once again, and we'll be wrapping up for the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much, Laura. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Laura, if you could hit the record button, I think it
Should stop
should stop it.